My dad died of COVID on Friday, just as I warned he would. My fury over his refusal of the vaccine is hammered by a sorrow drawn thicker by this fact. My brother did not take him to the hospital. Blames our father's death on you vaxxed people and your shedding. I didn't take him to the hospital. Didn't want them pumping him full of poison. Okay, but now he's dead. Was dying for 11 days as you watched him writhe and gasp in his bed. May I never be filled with the poison that could allow me to do that to a loved one. Despite our tumultuous history, the many times I've written him off, I never would have allowed my dad to go down like that. Never. I am relieved I was able to scare my brother into going to the ER the night our father died. He was positive. Oxygen low. Deadly. He was saved by the very science he denies, is now home, says he can't come to the service. You all are too deadly to me. Incredible. The levels of delusion and ignorance feel mythological to me. A terrifying weapon handed to a clumsy child. How do you let a 68-year-old man suffocate in front of you for 11 days? My dad went to our cousin's funeral on October 9th and died 13 days later. My bro says, I never should have let him go to the funeral with vaxxed people. Bitch, you never should have let him die in front of you. Grant me the strength to return to my hometown, fulfill my responsibilities, and honor my goofy bastard of a father, and finally reach some peace. Grant me the strength to not shank the cowardice in the neck with my longest fang. I am feral and grieving. There is no worse version of me. For those curious, my dad was 68. A spry dude who hiked, drank morning protein shakes with tons of supplements, and was generally very active. Was scared of the virus during lockdown. Within 12 months, it was just the flu. It took him down in 11 days. It was painful. He suffered. My brother waited 10 hours to tell me our dad died. I didn't know he was sick. We're 3K miles apart, but always kept each other updated on things. We survived so much together when we were small. How can this be how it ends? Death by pride, by ignorance, an embarrassing tragedy. Skipping ahead a couple weeks, my brother died of COVID on Monday. I've learned he left the hospital early, against doctor's recommendation. He never told me that part. He let me think he was getting better. For 9 days, I did what I could to help him. In the end, he died alone. I'm on another planet now. You know, when I was like a kid and I learned about the Civil War in school, it was astonishing to me that this country was at a point where literally brother was fighting brother in the Civil War. Actual families were torn apart. And it was astonishing to me that things ever reached that point. Now here we are 150 years later, and it all makes perfect sense. I completely understand how it happened. I can see it right in front of me. It's right there, right in front of me, right in front of you, for all of us to see. The first award that actually made me sad. Get vaccinated, guys. Person in Regina Hospital, crying, dying. I should have had my shots. My wife had hers. She kept telling me to get mine. I'm going to die, aren't I? He spoke with family one last time before going to ICU. He told them he was so sorry. He died 3 days later. Alone. I know it's funny to not get the vax to own the libs, but you know, the libs aren't just making this shit up. God works in mysterious ways. He put me in the COVID isolation ward in Medicine Hat Hospital with asthma and COVID to soften my heart and open my eyes. Boom. Done. Trust me, this COVID virus is real. I have never been so sick in my life. I am truly sorry for anyone that I have offered over this, and you will never get any more negativity from me over the COVID. The damn mask does save lives. Just wear the damn thing and you might save a life. I'm getting the Pfizer vaccine tomorrow after having a long talk with my doctor and nurse about the Pfizer. They said I could get COVID again, and I sure don't want to go through that again. I am grateful to the COVID unit medical personnel for the excellent care I received. I once again am blessed for God to release me from the burden of hate. I am happy again. Well, what a good ending, I suppose. Reminder that could have been avoided by just getting the vaccine in the first place. Please stop saying the vaccine doesn't have severe side effects. I took my shots and now I'm alive and have to keep working. That's a big mood. Fitness buff underestimates the weight of COVID. Oh yeah, look at this hunk of meat. Oh yeah. I have never worn a mask. Guess that makes me sophisticated. Ahead of my time, thanks, Bo. I have first-hand knowledge of an entire staff of nurses about to walk in a system making the jab mandatory. Cannot imagine why they don't trust the science. That doesn't make sense. Jesse Jackson hospitalized with COVID. Yes, fully vaccinated. It's almost like there's several significant other problems going on with Jesse Jackson. Question, if vaccines work, how come they aren't working? Here we go. An inquiry inquired by the most intelligent of individuals. To be honest, they are working. A quick check shows my status of vaccination rate of 50%. If vaccines do nothing, then half of the hospitalized COVID patients would be vaccinated. The actual ratio is 5% vaccinated. Hey, it's like the COVIDiots never actually took statistics, much to the irritation of those of us like myself who did. You say me not wearing a mask is going to kill you? How long do you think this is going to take? Wow. Posts like this kind of put it in another light to think of. See, they're doing this to own the libs because they don't think the people who say you should get vaccinated genuinely want them to live. They think we want them to die because that's what they want of us. They want us to die, so therefore they think we must want the same thing of them. If you think that's an inaccurate way of viewing this political dichotomy, I invite you to look at posts like this. When you have to show your papers to eat in a restaurant but not to vote, something is really wrong. You still gotta register to vote. Governor Henry McMaster vows to fight Joey over the gates of hell over vaccine mandates. I will be by his side. I think that's Joe Biden. If the masks work, why do I need a vaccine? Oh God. If the vaccines work, why do I need a mask? If neither work, why am I getting fired? Freedom? Another great example of someone who really doesn't have a grasp on how these things actually work, but he heard it from someone else, probably a media figure. So he thinks, oh, they seem like an authority figure. I'm going to repeat what they say. Never mind what the truth is behind it. You know, we can't let that stop us. Most of you already know that redacted person has been battling COVID Delta variant, and the ICU doctor says the viral load was literally 1,000 times higher than what we saw last year. His oxygen levels dropped suddenly, and he was taken to the hospital. No one is allowed to visit him. The doctor said that since he was so strong, with no underlying issues, he should recover. He had to be moved to ICU yesterday, and his pneumonia has gotten a little worse. I'm asking all of you to pray that he be healed. He has always taken care of his immune system, so at least he has that, plus being so strong and has always enjoyed perfect health. Thank you all. Funny thing about that, COVID doesn't care. This is my cousin, redacted. He lived his life to the fullest. He always ate healthy. He worked out all the time. He was a personal trainer to many, many males and females alike. He never gave up on his faith. God was always at the top of his list. Redacted had passed away today. And that's that! Just a reminder here, this guy was posting things like this. So, let's see, he posted this on September 4th, and then he died in end of September. Wow, not even a month later. Jesus. Question, if vaccines work, how come they aren't working? Huh, how about that? Looks like they were working and you were not. A story about my dying dad. This is a lot of words. Here's a picture of my dad. He is 61 years old and he's dying right now. He asked me to take him to the emergency room in a little town that has 10,000 people in it because he fell down when he was alone by himself and was having some issues. We waited for hours. The room was divided by people with COVID symptoms and non-COVID symptoms. We waited for hours and hours and hours. My dad looked at me and said, I hope they can see me really soon. I don't feel good, bud. And I reassured him any minute they would call his name. During this 6-hour wait, 5 ambulances came and brought in people who couldn't breathe and were having COVID compilations, which I was told by a guy who was just triaged right before we got to the tip of the iceberg of this story. I thought I heard Greg, my dad's name, and I looked at my dad and half smiled. He just asked to forget it and take him home. I got up and rushed his wheelchair over to the door, and the nurse looks at me and says, I am sorry, sir. We go by the severity to determine who needs to be seen first. That's called triage. She had said some other name or one of the fucks sitting over on the COVID side, and I misheard the name. The woman they called was no older than 30 and had been there a much shorter time, maybe 30 minutes. This young woman who refused to get vaccinated despite the massive amount of evidence supporting the idea that if you get vaccinated, it saves you a hospital trip, now having priority over my 61-year-old dying dad. I start getting angry and my dad says, let's just go, bud. We can come back tomorrow or go to Burlington. I left that hospital crying because the same fuckers that want to listen to Fox News and share unscientific bullshit and shit are the same ones filling up those hospital rooms. Rooms that people like my dad could have used desperately, but he couldn't be seen. Point being, I don't give a fuck if you aren't vaccinated. I get upset when you fucking quacks refuse to get the shot and then go to the hospital immediately following getting COVID. Stick to your guns. Stay home. take your vitamins, your hydroxychloroquine, and ivermectin, and be about all the shit you share. If you didn't want to listen to medical science, then in my opinion, you don't get to come crying and ask for medical science when you start losing the ability to breathe. This is why I don't give two fucks if there are mandates. It's happening all over. I don't care if people lose their jobs. I don't care. In my opinion, these nurses who don't believe in medicine, teachers that don't believe in science, and cops that don't believe in public safety shouldn't have jobs anyway. There are a myriad of shots people are mandated to take throughout their life, and not a word about that. But a once-in-a-century pandemic happens, and people get scared for a little boo-boo in their arm. However, I still believe it is your choice and God-given liberty to choose to get the vaccine. So do get it or don't. Quit or get fired and get another job. Fuck that company you work for mandating a vaccine. The current administration's plan is you should be offered weekly testing or the option of a vaccine, not forced. So let your company or state or city mandate or whatever and protest that. I get that. But don't go crying to the hospital and be such a fucking pussy when you can't breathe. Damn, dude. See, stories like that are why I'm 100% in favor of mandates all across the board. At first, I didn't care. At first, it seemed kind of excessive. But now it's become obvious that there's a significant chunk of people who just absolutely refuse to do it. Like, you can show them all the evidence. You can show them all these people fucking dying. They won't do it. So you know what? Fine. Fuck you. You want to live in society? You're going to have to make some sacrifices. You don't exist in a vacuum. You have a responsibility to the society you live in. That's something called social responsibility, and it seems like a lot of people are fucking lacking in it. You know when Jordan Peterson says, "Clean your room, bucko, take some bloody responsibility for your life." He's right, that's you. You need to take responsibility for yourself and your life if you want it to get any better. But guess what? It doesn't end there. There's another responsibility you have to the people around you. Shockingly, people like Jordan Peterson and conservatives in general just neglect any mention of that responsibility. Ha! Along the same vein, I don't shit on the sidewalk. I'd like to give a thank you to the October patrons: Benjamin Kessler, Dios, Ian DeGaby, Here Comes the Rat, James Paul, Jerry Pulamo, Joe Nuts, Lionel, Mellow Cheddar, Suzanne Hendrickson, and Xylorp. The Herman Cain Awards will continue in Part 3.